Hi, welcome to another mod stream. We're back, boys. We're getting some work done on our Mapcrap submission, and beyond that, I also plan on working on some audio visuals for Cosmonarchy. I've just completed a blackjack muzzle flash, which probably could use some tweaking down the line, but at least it exists, and I'm about to do the same thing to the manifold, and after that, I guess I'll be working on a placeholder graphic for the Lyrilisk that I have to port from Atomic Punk, which is a very goofy asset pack of a game, but we'll see what happens. I have some news, however, before I jump into my work today. Obviously, Veek is in the chat, says, "Are you ready to man mode?" Luciferius is in the chat saying, "Crap starting soon." Well, that is all true, but I've got a mega announcement, which is that the guys over at Five Nations, the real men who made that title, are officially going to hand over some of their object files, maybe all of their object files, for the models that we've been using, which means we'll finally be able to re-render them to get rid of the specularity highlights and the unfortunate perspective that just doesn't gel with how Starcraft assets are essentially designed to look. So now we'll be able to smooth out a lot of those issues, and we'll even be able to make, in theory, alterations to the base model so that we can make them better fit what we want out of them. For example, the Centaur, that very long flagship, I can actually get somebody to add missile tubes to the Centaur itself, maybe reduce how busy the asset is if there's certain cases where there's over detailing for the scale that we're going for. That's obviously going to be massively impactful in figuring out a way to just make the project look a little bit more, maybe not professional, but at least reasonable. So very exciting stuff there, and as soon as I get handed those OBJs, I'll be given some BJs, if you know what I mean, to DF and Balethal, whoever else wants to chip in, maybe Veek as well, who wants to chip in to make some changes to the models. The only issue is, of course, one of the problems with using OBJs, or using the way that these are listed in general, is one of the problems is, obviously, we're using different software. Like, Veek and Balethal are using Blender, and DF is using 3ds Max. So while DF can get something pretty consistent, he's only one guy, and he's using a different toolset than everybody else. So it's kind of a give and take. Like, I'm not sure that we'll be able to get the lighting to be stable between the programs, the camera angles, and all that shit. That'll take some configuration. But the point is, we have the potential. We have the technology, boys. I think we can rebuild these assets into something more suitable. So that's my big news. That's my big announcement. And now it's time to do some audiovisual work. Mostly visual at this point. I've kind of cheated and done a lot of audio already. And by cheated, I mean that's something that I genuinely enjoy doing. Whereas it's not to say that I don't enjoy doing stuff like the visual stuff, but it's a bit more out of my level of competence, we'll say. So for this one, I think I'm going to jump into the dev branch, materials, graphics, Protoss units, Vassal. I think I'm going to go ahead and grab the attack. We're going to port these over to the manifold PSD file. And drop them right here. So, the thing about the manifold is that obviously it's kind of like the blackjack where it's really only meant to have one gun. So what I'm going to do is try to sort of almost combine these. I wish there was a way to paste exactly identical to how the graphic originally was. I don't know why it's such a difficult thing to do. Photo editing software. Okay, we'll do... Why? Oh. Let's try this out. the lighting isn't consistent, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't aspire to having more consistent assets down the line. I guess I'll start aligning these with the frames that I assume are going to need them. Yeah, that's that. This is over here. And these are like the straight shooters, so to speak. So we'll delete that, move this over there. There. I don't know what these are. These are like bottom-facing frames that are already covered, I think. I guess they'd be over here. Technically over here. And I feel like this should probably be a layer via cut. We merge layers there. Merge those layers. Just organizing this real quick so that I can have a slightly more reasonable time trying to set these up. And we'll say this is that, obviously, and this is actually one over. Oh, it looks like I skipped one or something. Let's see. This one's over here. That one makes sense for these. This one makes sense for those. Oh, yeah, there's only... I know there's two here. Okay, so this one just doesn't need to exist. Bing, bong, bing. Okay, cool. All right, back to it. There we go. Oh, and then I just realized I did that when I didn't need to, because this one's already existing. Aha! I pranked myself. I kind of like this one a bit better than that one, though, so... Nah, maybe not. This one's a bit more rounded, I guess you could say. So there's a Photoshop feature called Paste in Place, which you would expect would paste it exactly where it is, but instead it pastes it like where it originally was pasted on the image or something, so it's completely useless. Just thought I would throw that trivia out there. That's probably something I might, like, I could theoretically configure to not be bad, but I don't know how to do that, so... Let's just say it's less than epic in terms of how useful it actually is. I was going to see if maybe I could take these and move them up a bit. And then obviously I can just fill these in manually with some quick. Do that. I think that works out. We just need to add some... Oh, I guess that's not related. That's part of the base asset. Okay, that's fine. We will go ahead and copy paste. It looks like if I nudge it first, it actually works, but I don't know. All right, Photoshop, stop shitting, please. I will quickly restart the program. Seems like it's not playing very nice. So, Balethal, since you were saying you'd probably start your Mapcrap submission today, I was curious if you wanted to share any dirt about what you intend. So it looks like if I nudge it up and down and then copy and paste, somehow that pastes it in place. So that's a workaround, I guess, if anybody needs that kind of functionality. It will probably speed my process up here by quite a bit if I had to guess. So obviously we want the one that's further down to be the one that we make dominant. In this case... and then we can just do this. No. There we go. Okay, so what I'll do here is I'll merge all of these, and then I'll just move these together because I kind of want to reposition them. Okay. Fair enough, yeah. Would be banging to see some, Oh wait, I have to do this. You also can't get it by nudging and then canceling. You have to... What a prank. Okay. So this is where they become attack over. Because of the perspective change. It would be really cool to see people's different takes on the system. Or whatever. I wonder if that's not close enough together, actually. Make some changes a bit later on. Okay. Save. I would like to see what other people can come up with anyway. Even if I don't end up thinking that it's... like, even if it's not the way that I would end up doing something, it still would be interesting to see people's... what people go... Where people go creatively, I guess. I would also like to see, like, what people's ideas of, like, maybe custom factions would be within the space or whatever, too. If anybody ends up having any more original ideas, I guess. But still wants to make it within the... the context, basically, that I've already put together. Let's do this. Just wanted to add those subtle hints that those are two separate bits. I went over by one too many pixels. Now we're good. Okay, so now we've got our muzzle flashes, and they might actually be a bit too big in some cases. Like, I'm thinking maybe from here onward, they probably extend out a bit too much. So what we can do with those, we can actually just straight up shrink them. That's not what I wanted to do. You noob. Well, I guess it is. That's all they're letting me do. It was like this? Whatever. No. So just make these last final changes. And I think we are good there. Now this will only be showing for like a very short amount of time, but I still want it to look somewhat reasonable during that time. I think maybe these ones are actually okay, but in the interest of consistency, I'll shrink them slightly. Okay, so now we have to adjust the lighting on the unit so that it looks a little bit more like it's actually being affected. And what we'll do is we will first select all team color pixels because we don't want... Oh, it looks like these are actually fucked up by the team color, which is pretty interesting. So maybe we actually don't bother with the team color if it's already messed up. And what we'll do instead is we will just select this whole thing, go to gradient map, attach it here. And what we'll find is some sort of suitable blue. I kind of like that one. We'll set this to like 30% maybe. Maybe a bit stronger. And then we'll just go ahead and disable that. And then we mask out the body. Obviously for these initial ones, it won't, it's not going to be like a massive amount of effect initially. And here we just need to mask out the team color pixels. And 160. Now, we can do it over here as well. Now, the good thing about this system is that if I ever want to make changes to what gets affected by the, what do you call it, the setup, the gradient, I can do that just by jumping into the PSD file, which reminds me to save it in case Photoshop decides to fuck me. Now, if I was really epic, aka turbo invested in making this look as good as possible, I would additionally go in and I would manually brighten up the team color that are in areas that should be affected. And now that I've said that out loud, I might have to do it just to save face, but if I decide to do that, it will be later, because even though it's not a massive investment in time, I still don't feel like doing it right now. I've got crap to map. And I still have a whole asset to convert after this is over, so... These kinds of changes are pretty important to do so that we can actually have a bit more readability in the game, generally speaking. So I am happy to do them, even if I am dubious about my art skills. The effect that they end up having at the end of the day is pretty notable. So perhaps unsurprisingly, it's pretty helpful to have some sort of visual indication of when a unit is attacking. I guess it was kind of unforgivable that it ever shipped. I ever shipped any hit scan units without that read. I don't know, man. It is what it is, I suppose. Just go ahead and block out those. At the very least, I fixed them. With a slightly bluer color scheme, it's also very apparent to me that this is not a walker of a Protoss variety, but actually a fucking human who's in some sort of leg armor or whatever, but you know what? As long as nobody else notices, it's a robot. Alright, so now we'll take a look at what this actually results in. So you can kind of see the difference where it's very gold up here, but then it lightens up. And so what we can do if we wanted to make that effect more intense is we could increase the opacity of the effect of the gradient map. And I think that's probably pretty solid. Obviously, it's going to have minimal changes in the north-facing frames, but as we start to get more towards the right side, it's going to be pretty noticeable. So now what we'll do is we'll use DF's epic script to automatically convert this into a team color corrected Starcraft index. And we will also save this as manifold PSD. Say muzzle flash. Okay. And then close it. Now we have to import it. And I forget how many frames are in this graphic. Looks like there were 204. So they're 221 now. Go ahead and import. So I added a frame set for the express purpose of this. And now we can export this as vertical. Just wait for it to finish. Should be able to close Photoshop now as well. Always takes quite a while for PyGRP to extract vertical frames when there's a lot going on there. So now the only thing that we have to do is... actually, we have to reopen Photoshop because I've added a frame set, which means we need to redo the shadow. So this will actually be... keep this frame set, but export it. Say manifold shadow. Extract all those frames. I should also, oops. Should also do the same for the blackjack because the, I actually didn't add a frame set for the blackjack because there was already one that was basically set up so that it would eventually work for a muzzle flash. It's just that for whatever reason, I mean, maybe it like launched a missile or something in the original game, I don't know. Or a grenade. I could see that. There probably should still be a muzzle flash, of course, but... this is some lunatic game we are talking about, so I can't say I'm massively surprised, let's say. If we go to Terran... oh no, this is Protoss units. Manifold. Go ahead and... You know, I'm thinking... the other stuff that I'm going to need to figure out is not just these shadows, which actually should be pretty easy. Just have to automate them. Find the stuff here. So I'll do unit shadow infantry for manifold. I guess I could do it for both blackjack and manifold. That's probably what I did do already, so yeah. Leave that there. But yeah, so that checks off the muzzle flash for the manifold. Later today, I'll be doing unit responses for the Wendigo and the Pariah, or at least for 2 units. I'm trying to do an average of 1 set of unit responses a day until the next patch, and I was supposed to do the... I did the Savant on the 17th, Monday, but I was not able to do the Wendigo yesterday because I was too busy releasing a mega video, so it's pretty funny. But, yeah, at the end of the day... just means I gotta play a bit of catch-up now, that's all. Oh yeah, in other news, Veek was able to smash out some pretty good changes to the kiting AI. So while there are still some edge cases and things that need to be addressed, and we'll find those as we continue to test, definitely seems like that will be shipping in the next patch. And by the end of today, I should have some functioning Zerg build orders as well. Technically, the Zerg AI is actually functioning with the new system. It's just that I haven't overhauled all of the tech progression and stuff just yet for the Zerg. So if I go to like, I forget what it's called. It's literally just called Tech, I think. Yeah, Z Tech. So, Tech Skithrock shouldn't exist anymore. This should just be Muthrock. Yeah, you can see here that I have not actually corrected some of these just yet. So like Quasilus should be over here, and it should also call that. Pref Leerolisk should call Tech Leave Roll. I don't know why this is Pref Assault. This would be Pref Hydralisk and Pref Skithricor. And this is Pref Nathricor. Yeah, I think there should be an AI cast over today. I just want to make an actual build order for the Zerg that I can test out at least. So this is now tier 2. We can get rid of Nathricor here. Bactal is actually Gorgral. Yeah, okay. So I need to actually make some new blocks here. Yeah, I completely forgot that this stuff was even like this, actually. So we have this, and this is also Convilisk. Vithrilisk is actually Vithrath. And Gorgrok is Gorgrel. Okay. And then where is Calcalisk? Should be over here as Vithrath. Trying to think if I'm missing anything. Oh yeah, well technically these are tier 2, so that's what was missing. But so we have the 6. Basically, Zerg now has 6 tier 1 units. They've got Quasilisks and Zethricors, aka Zerglings, that are in the Swarm build, if you will. Unlocked by the Quasrock Pool, which used to be called Spawning Pool. So you've got those, Hydralisks, and the new Skithricor unit, which is like a short-ranged air unit. You could kind of think of it like a Mutalisk, but it doesn't bounce. It's a bit more spammable, perhaps. That unit is unlocked by the Hydrock Den, which used to be called Hydral Den. So those are unlocked by the same structure. And then for air, when you build the Spire, you get Mutalisks and Nathricors. So Nathricors are also 2 from 1 egg now, which is, I think, pretty interesting. I don't know how I'm going to handle birth animations for 2 for 1 egg units. I have a feeling I'll have to really carefully study how the Zergling one is positioned by Lard. Yeah, we're still waiting on that Manifold Shadow stuff. So let's look through this again. When you upgrade your Hydrock Den, you get access to both Gorgricors from Skithricors and Bactalisks from Hydralisks. Lachizalisks are from Larva now, and they're unlocked by the same structure that unlocks Zaryustaleths. They're kind of orphaned insofar as they don't have a They don't have a morph a progressive morph. They are just a base unit. There are 4 base units currently in the game for Zerg. It's the Lakizalisk, the Istratholeth, formerly Defiler, the Gizithalor, and the Sovraleth, which is a new unit. I'm not sure if the Sovraleth will ever get a morph. It seems like it's probably fine for... Actually, there's probably room for more dead-end units, if you will. Orphan units, where they don't continue to branch out. The only balancing act that I have to worry about there is basically... Right now, Zoroastroleths mutate into Ultra Cores, and Ultra Cores are no longer a base unit. So, because of that, you have to upgrade your tech structure for Zoroastroleths, but you don't get any benefit for Lakizalisks there. It's not like they unlock a new morph that they can also go to. So it's a little bit less flexible, I guess. And it's almost like the higher tier some of the structures are, the more you're dead-end specializing, if you will, or specializing further, even though it's still, extra money or whatever. So I don't know how I want to approach that, because the same is true for the structure that unlocks Gizithalors, formerly Guardians. That structure also unlocks Cascathalors, what used to be morphed from an Ultra Core, the long-range ground unit that creates the acid pool. And that unit has a morph that goes into the Alcagalisk, which is the Gigunda sort of capital ship of Zerg, I guess you could call. I'm okay with that existing, but again, you only get one unit from upgrading your structure. So I've got to balance the resource cost and the fact that it's like a high-tier tech thing. I've got to figure out what I want to do with that. So, and then the other issue is that the Sovraleth and the Istratholeth are both unlocked by the same structure, but neither of them have morphs, so that structure doesn't have a mutation, which kind of makes the whole thing almost an orphan, if you can call it that, like an orphan structure, which is a bit interesting, I guess, but also not what you would necessarily suspect. So I'm not 100% sure what's left to do there, or if there's anything that I have to worry about. Like, maybe that's just fine. That's just how it plays out. Maybe there will be another tech shuffle later down the line. But it's just one of those things that I've been thinking about, because I'm not trying to model other races or branches after the Terran bio, but yesterday I had like a 40-minute spiel talking about how, from a design perspective, Terran infantry feel really solid as you're progressing through them, and they work really well with other branches. I think at the end of the day, some branches will be a little bit more specialist. Maybe they spike earlier. Maybe they only work under certain conditions where your opponent is going a certain comp, or your allies are going a certain comp, or whatever. Maybe being exclusively one branch is generally like that, and then each race can have a general purpose branch where infantry can kind of react to a lot of different things, but maybe they're not it's the jack of all trades, master of none. They might not be the best solution to everything. You should still probably be able to win with infantry only builds, but they're almost maybe seen as like a stepping stone. They're the conservative option. They give you the most response in the early game, and then you can then decide, okay, I'm going to go armor from here, which I think is interesting. It's fine. Now for Protoss, Kian had an interesting suggestion, which was basically saying, offering the idea of being able to build any tech structure at any time with no tech requirement whatsoever to them. So instead of progressing with Principality and to Citadel of Adun into Archon Archives, you could just choose, actually, I'm just going to build an Archon Archives, and then my Cantavis from Grand Library can morph into Archons and Augurs. Well, I think Augurs are unlocked by the Sanctum of Sorrow, actually. But, so they can morph into Archons, and if I want Mind Tyrants, then I'm going to need a Citadel of Adun to unlock Kabbalists first, but I can get Archon Archives first. That's an interesting idea to me, because it allows Protoss to be flexible in a way that no other race is. It's still very unique to the Protoss, despite the fact that it removes some of the progression elements. It's almost like, rather than progressing in tiers, you're just choosing which units to add to your arsenal. And I think that can go a long way, actually, to producing some serious things, some serious I'm not even sure if you would call them like upgrades to the overall tech path or flow, but I think it would be interesting to see stuff like being able to just say, I'm going to go demiurges, and like you've built nothing but robotics facility or whatever. The other thing is, do I extend this to the production structures? Because what this would unlock, if I applied it to everything, is basically you can choose, as somebody who has opened with Skytoss, you've opened Stellar, you've gone for the Stargate approach, and you've gone straight into Panoptis or Aurora or whatever, and then you see your opponent doing something and you need to make a tech switch. As Skytoss, if with this new system, you could immediately go Robotics Authority, skipping Robotics Facility and all of the base stuff. You could also immediately go Grand Library and skip all of the Gateway stuff, right? So this gives Protoss a very unique aspect to their progression throughout the game, and I think it will allow me to independently balance the costs of the tech structures. So I can make the tech structure that the new there'll probably be a new one because I have space in the robotics branch command card. There'll be a new tech structure requirement for the Demiurge so that the synthetic synod doesn't enable it. So they'll have a dedicated tech structure, but as Veek is sort of implying, you can jump straight to it. You can just go straight to that tech structure, but maybe it costs 400 fucking gas, and so you need to expand before you can do that, right? So it's a gate that says you need to have a certain amount of money, but you can still choose to rush towards it and see where you can go. Balathal brings up a point about Star Sovereigns being broken because you might be able to rush them even faster, because you could theoretically skip Stargate, go straight to Argosy, and straight to Cosmic Altar after that. I think, again, if we're independently balancing or rebalancing the costs of the tech structure, and maybe the stats as well to make them, in some cases, potentially easier to snipe. One of the things that this accomplishes is our ability to, like, it allows me to pull different levers to still facilitate early action at a higher tier. But it allows Protoss to go in. What I really like about the concept is it gives Protoss the ability to express the power of their tier based solely on how much money they have. And it kind of feels right for the Protoss thematic, I guess. And that's not necessarily a sound argument from a design standpoint, but I also don't think it's unfair or cheap or even like a gimmick to say, oh, you can't, you unlock this structure without needing a tech requirement for it. That doesn't really seem massively unfair or anything. Like, Terrans obviously have a very procedural thing. It's like ABC, right? They've got add-ons and stuff, but for the most part, it's Engineering Bay unlocks tier 2 and Science Facility unlocks tier 3, and that's how it works. And Zerg have like a very different approach where actually they have kind of a similar approach, believe it or not, with Iral Iris and then Oth's to Lava Form and Alazal Arbor. But the way that you access those structures is different, right? Because instead of add-ons or higher tier production structures, you just straight up get, like, you can enhance your production structures by mutating them, but you mostly mutate your base buildings, and then you can upgrade, you can build new buildings as well. But it's tech structures instead of production structures that you get access to, and that's where Zerg are different than Terran. With Protoss, it was never going to work to make it so that one structure unlocks a bunch of shit. Right now, that's technically the case, where the Gateway unlocks Principality, Cenotaph, and Grand Library, and that's basically how I did it. But I like the idea of being able to literally do whatever without any sort of adherence to a tech requirement, and making the requirement actually more about the resources. I did not mean to start this program. Well, if you remember back in the day when I had the Quantum Institute and it was like 900 of each resource, I'm not averse to making that decision. I still think that can work out. I would say that, like, so what this makes me think about is actually maybe doing something similar to the Zerg thing, where I'm considering consolidating structures to unlocking multiple units at once, and then I can increase the cost of the individual structure because it has more impact, and then also because of the fact that like the cost itself represents the implied tier requirement, or the implied tier of the units that it is unlocking. So you can imagine, like, if you see a structure and it's 300 of each resource, yeah, well, that's more expensive than normal tech structures, and then you see one that's like 500 or 700 or whatever, some crazy number, then you know, oh shit, this is like a real fucking kick in the teeth for my economy, but it must unlock something really mega. In such a case, I could imagine a world where like Fleet Beacon unlocks Solarians and Empyreans, and Cosmic Altar unlocks, you know, Star Sovereigns and Didacs or something. But you kind of roll the costs of both structures formally into one, particularly the time cost, and then maybe you up the resource cost even further than that because of the fact that there's no tech requirement. And you kind of use the resource cost as the gate that answers to the tech requirement, but it's still less decisions you have to make along the way, I suppose. So I'm not 100% sure how I would handle that, actually, but I think that that might be a way forward for Protoss that, for one, a more technical consideration frees up more unit IDs. Although our main limiting factor right now is weapon IDs anyway, so I don't think that would be a massive factor. But for another, I think the major sort of thing that this would potentially achieve is it would allow Protoss to be a lot more flexible, but still have to fork over a decent amount of cash. So that's where I think the balancing lever comes in, where it's not unfair for Protoss to be able to do that because they first had to bank up enough money. And in most cases, you're not going to be able to bank up enough money to get your first tech structure be Cosmic Altar or some insane shit. Well, in this case, Vic, the tiers were actually gated by several buildings, but it depended on your branch. So, like, Gateway gated Tier 2 Templar, and Robotics Facility gated Tier 2 Robotics, and so on and so forth. So it was delineated, but it was in some ways even less intuitive that way. Or not necessarily intuitive, because I think it's a simple enough concept, but in execution, it ends up being a lot of, fuck, I gotta do this kind of feeling. So... I was also musing on the fact that robotics have the least units out of any branch, even after the Demiurge was added. Because you've got 6 units out of the Gateway, 3 units out of the Grand Library, but in reality it's... oh no, it's 4 units out of the Grand Library, but in reality it's 7, because you have all of the morphs from... Or it's 6, because of the Cantavus. So it's actually 7 if you count Mind Tyrants from the Gateway, and... 6 from the Grand Library, which is like a combined total of 13, which paradoxically, because you would actually expect that, like, after all of the air changes, I would have intuitively expected the air sky toss to have more units, because I was like, oh yeah, you know, 5, 8, and then 10, but they have 3 less units than the Templar. So even when you remove the Archon Martyrs or whatever, you still have equal counts. And I'm not counting the Charlatan, obviously that's going to be moved on to something else later. But, you know, this is 10, 10, and assuming you're not counting the martyrs. And then over here, you've got a measly, I guess you have 9. So it's not completely ridiculous. I guess if the Clarion was still over here, it would be 10 even. It just feels like Templar might even be a bit too loaded. Yeah, I'm not sure about the combining yet. One of the things that did just strike me is that maybe we need additional production structures actually for Protoss, which would be another way to make it so that you kind of gate the power of individual things or whatever. So I was thinking, like, I already need to add a production structure for the profane path, which would essentially be like I figure I can probably throw Kabbalist on there, which would be thematic, but then maybe the Pariah moves over to that as well. And then obviously you have the infested units, or whatever, the Zerg hybrid units, if you want to call them that, even though they're not hybrids. But you get those, and then obviously the Terran technology. So that would be Aspirant, Striga, Luminary, and then Charlatan, Empress, and Thelian. So that would be 6 units right there. And then you also add in the Pariah, Kabbalist, Mind Tyrant by extension of the Kabbalist. So you'd have 8, 9 if you count the Martyr for that branch, and that would pull away 3 from Templar, which would result in if you count the remaining Martyrs that would stick around, you would still have 10. Yeah, Balethal. The add-on thing is interesting because of the fact that it's building specific, which is one of the reasons why I did it in the first place. And we're still only not even halfway done with that one. Jesus. But yeah, I agree about the this just sounding like a better solution. Well, the issue, Veek, is that if I make it so that there's a higher tier production structure than Argosy or Grand Library, I'm essentially saying that you have so that right now the Gateway is a pretty well sort of all-purpose production structure. So hear me out here, right? Protoss have the largest production structures out of any race, excluding the robotics facility, which probably needs to be made larger. In fact, I even have a concept about how I can represent that visually. But excluding the robotics facility, every structure they have is larger than what you would normally expect. It's much larger than what you would normally expect for the other races. Like Zerg have larval colonies, and then their town centers double as production, so it's not really fair as a comparison. And Terrans got over the top, like tier 1 production structure reduction size. The Netite assembly, obviously, is a pretty large structure. Probably should be shrunken, but I can't find a way to do that in a satisfactory way. The Iron Foundry and the Captaincy in particular has been shrunken even further. The Iron Foundry is somewhat like middle ground. I guess you could compare it to a Grand Library. But the thing I'm getting at here is that they have large production structures, and one of the balancing acts that I've done to justify that is provide each production structure with a large number of units, like a decent roster, so that you can pump out a number of different kinds of units. If I were to add another production structure, that would take some of the units away from existing ones, which would mean that you would have less justification for the structures being as large as they are, if that makes any sense. The add-ons are going to extend them, but it unlocks even more units that they can produce. So it's still there. So what I'm talking about here is the balancing is based around figuring out a way to achieve a balance between how many opportunities you get with a structure, how many different things you can do with the structure, versus how large the structure is, what is the opportunity and real world cost of building the structure, build space, resources, and that sort of thing. So this is just something I'm keeping in mind. I'm not necessarily saying I'm not going to add additional production structures. I think at least a profane production structure makes absolute sense. And the best thing is, even if I want to quantify the profane structure as tier 2, it doesn't really matter, because the whole point is we're basing tiers off of resources, not off of actual tiers, like what it requires or whatever. So I really like that in general. I think that's a pretty solid way to go about things. I wonder if 3ds Max even works on my computer now. Yeah, I think Terrans are really solid. I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to change the other races is because they paled in comparison, to be honest. Like, it's super intuitive that I build a production structure. I build an add-on for that production structure that maybe requires a higher tier, and that add-on gives me access to new units that I can use. And each add-on represents 2 more units I can build, with the exception of the munitions bay, which unlocks 3. Like, it's very solid. And you know, obviously I would maybe make changes to the other branches, other than bio. Shadow still needs some adjustments for sure, but it's missing half of the units that you get access to almost. So yeah, there's a pretty no. I do not want to fill out a survey, dude. This program can't even be accessed anymore. Oh! All right, well, spastastic. I was trying to see if I could start 3ds Max, but it doesn't look like it's doing anything besides potentially destroying me. I vaguely recall 3ds Max. Oh, it is here. Okay. Yeah, thanks. Let's just go ahead and open Duck. I forgot about that one. Oh, Jesus Christ. What is this user interface? Holy moly. Can I, maybe I have to file import or something? Oh, looks like I have some bones. Dude, he gave me Mongoleth. Fuck yeah. Dude, we got Mongo. This is from the Five Nations, guys. I don't remember, or don't know, rather, what I need to do to fix the textures. But we got Mongo. Dude, look at that face. Face your opponent. Yeah, so earlier I was discussing so earlier I was just talking about how infantry was basically like the most, what would you call it? So basically, you go infantry when you don't know what to expect because they're the most flexible branch. And then like the other branches kind of result in either they enhance your tier 1 infantry experience before you tech up, or they're meant to be gone over solely, skipping infantry, because you have a specific build order and plan in mind, maybe synchronizing with your team, or you have a read on what your opponent is doing. So I don't think that's a design flaw. Now, if tier 1 armor and orbital don't feel good to use, then the answer probably lies in finding out which units specifically don't feel good to use, finding a way to adjust them so that they feel better. But the from a conceptual, like, top-down thought process, infantry is what you go when you don't know what to expect and you need to make sure that you can successfully, like, adapt. And and when I say infantry is what you go, I'm thinking like you're focusing mostly on infantry. Maybe you branch out into armor or orbital or shadow for some other reason. Yeah, the wraith thing we can fix as soon as we can fire fake bullets. Unfortunately, the fact that, like, the thematic of the wraiths actually shooting 3 lasers, super good. Don't want to lose that. And I would have to lose that if I wanted them to not be reduced by armor so much. Obviously, another thing we could do is just implement the new armor pen system, which would be hilarious if that's what we do instead of fixing the fucking fire thing. Firing a fake bullet would also allow us to get 1 more weapon ID, since I had to use 2 for the Cascathalor. Although I guess there's probably some plugin gimmick we could use to circumvent that, but yeah, subtracting damage by 3 times when it's already a pretty low base target. Like, the other issue is if I raise the damage that wraiths do, it raises it by 3 for all targets. So you're dealing 9 damage to unarmored targets, and then that's being reduced by whatever the concussive factor is. But then it gets way out of whack when it starts to really drop. So, I mean, the other thing that we could play around with is maybe increasing the attack speed of the Wraith, which would still be a buff to it, but would allow it to maybe still deal DPS at a reasonable, rate. And I guess maybe another concern about Wraiths is that their cost is kind of prohibitive for spamming, and spamming is what you would need to bring down a couple of, heavy units, shall we say, or armored units. So maybe we drop the gas cost to 50. Maybe we drop the supply cost to 1. Maybe we drop the time cost. Maybe we do some combination thereof. And then maybe we stay away from modifying the weapon entirely and we just make it so that you can build a lot of them. Yeah, I mean, they're even good at, like, dealing again with static defense now that static defense is medium, right? You get a damage increase, shall we say. Well, it wouldn't fix the issue of the armor being reduced, but it would allow them to get more attacks in, which equals more DPS. Yes, it would also affect their gameplay against unarmored targets or low armored targets, but that's kind of by the by. This is stuff I don't think we can fix that until we simply just can't fix it until we get fake bullets, obviously. So, Guapissimo Pro, no God, what's up, homie? Welcome. Guapi could be the prefix of a Zerg unit, I think. Guapileth. Okay. Anyway, I think my shadows are done, so I can stop talking about balance again. Or design, or whatever you want to call that. We are going to close that. And smashed. Oops. Now, bam. Yeah, the problem that Southpaws have, right, is from a design perspective, they're designed to harass, but you need to kite with them. They're short range. I even gave them a range buff early on in their development so that they would be a little bit better at handling that sort of thing. And they're mostly for utility. So obviously, like their base damage is pretty low, right? Even though they have pretty fast attack speed. So I think the solution is to lean into what the Southpaw is good at. Okay? The solution is we just make them be able to target multiple units as long as it's facing them. So we use the frontal arc thing that we used for the Minotaur. We limit the number of targets to 3, and we see how that is. Obviously, 3 is a meme number, but I don't think that more than that makes sense for a tier 1 unit. And I don't think that less than that is really all that impactful. Although I guess 2 could be pretty useful still. But this way, even though it is technically a DPS buff, DPS was never the strength of the Southpaw. You rarely died to Southpaws. The point is that they apply the debuff, which is exactly what Balethal just said. So that's what I think the solution is. Or a potential solution. I think we just allow them to attack more than one target. We see where that goes. The other thing, instead of this, could be allowing the projectile to bounce, which would be kind of interesting as far as like a laser bouncing to targets goes. So it's either frontal arc or it's bounce. But either way, it would facilitate additional slowing, right? So then they become a little bit more like a DPS, less like DPS, a bit more focused on handling, what do you call it? The utility aspect of the unit, right? Right. And the other thing too is that like, I mean, vultures have 5 range. These only have 4. I think maybe they could probably get a range buff as well. But the ideal situation to use Southpaws in your army would probably be when they're not on the front lines, which kind of like is counterintuitive because the unit is supposed to be kind of scrappy. But again, I guess you just have to kite with them or whatever, so maybe it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, my thinking is they become useful to immobilize your, like, to prevent kiting away from other threats, which when you consider that Southpaws can run in and slow a bunch of units, right? And they're in the armor branch. And what else is in the armor branch? Paladins, fucking phalanxes, like these units that deal AoE damage at a wide array. Like, suddenly you can't run into the siege tanks as well, or the siege line, right? The armor line, because they're disrupted by the Southpaw. Suddenly you can't escape very easily either. So you can see where that could actually come in handy if it was used a little bit more frequently. So all right. So I will figure out a name for that passive a little bit later on. And what's next? Oh yeah, the other thing I wanted to try out was, I don't actually remember if Wraith copy, or it's like Wraith. They do have an overlay attack, so I guess we could try this. Oh, the overlay attack is not for that. It's unrelated. I thought there was some sort of muzzle flash, but I think maybe I'm thinking of... I must be thinking instead of the battlecruiser, the Minotaur. I think I'm a bit more open now to exploring the idea of heavier units in earlier tiers, because every race, especially after this Zerg overhaul, has a lot more opportunity to play around with like different counters or different things. So, yes, I think it would be... I'm open to the idea. The fuck? Well, I guess they do lack some sort of front line from the armor branch. I wonder what would happen if I moved the Heracles over to the armor branch, to be honest. Hey, Balethal, you know what I was just realizing is once we get all of these Zerg models, the Zogarn models from Five Nations that I've been using for Zerg, some of them could probably just quickly have, like, you could probably slap legs on a few of them or whatever, or change some animations, and then suddenly they're ground units. Could happen. Could happen. Oh yeah, I never finished tweaking this. Yeah, it's not difficult to multi-branch, particularly because when you get NG Bay, even if you don't have a barracks, you can get access to the captaincy. I guess by that logic, bunkers probably don't need to require barracks. I'm a little leery of allowing you to build bunkers and then load fucking, like, mech units into them or whatever, but whatever. No, it doesn't. It's just engineering bay. It's the same way that if you get science facility, you can go straight into nanite assembly without ever touching orbital. It's basically like the proposed Protoss tech rework if Terran didn't have the... or if you had to build a structure first to unlock everything. That's basically what it is. So, no longer requires... Oh, we'll just say now requires command center. Barracks. Zork is over here. This is Tech Gorgrel. This is Tech Vithrath. Is okay. Real big issue with using the extended commands for AI scripts is that they don't actually give you any runtime errors or whatever, or compile time errors, I guess it would be. So it's kind of shit. I think you would just open double factory into expansion, and you would start with just a bunch of vultures. I guess you could build bunkers so you could load like Cyclopses into them or whatever. And yeah, I think it might even be single fact into command center, where you go single fact, command center, bunker, and then put factories beneath behind the expansion. Right after the expansion, you expand your production, or you increase your production, and then after maybe 3 or 4 facts, you could go straight into NG Bay, depending on how soon you needed phalanxes. Well, you wouldn't want quick tier 2 without expansion, I don't think. I mean, you could do it. I guess it depends on the... So I'm still thinking of single gas bases. But if double gas mains become a bit more common, then I guess that outmodes that approach, and you could actually one base for a while. We're going to have to do some thinking about how that approach... I think it can just be an element where melee maps have different strategies available to you. Like, different melee maps have different resource balancing. So you could have something like double gas low mineral mains and single gas high mineral naturals or something like that. And then that could be like one map. And then maybe there's the old single gas high mineral main in another map. And like that just changes the strategies you can have. That'll be an interesting way to see how things progress in design. What was I just about to do anyway? I was testing the manifold. No, it's tier 2. Zorius the Left went to tier 2 as well. naturally. So the only thing I would say about this is that the lighting effect on the unit is kind of... it's actually good, but it's only there for a brief period of time, so... Oh, I forgot manifolds actually deal damage. Look at these tiny simulacra. They're babies. They're little itty bitty babies. Oh. Well, we got nerfed. Fuck you, idiot. Alright, I'm also testing Blackjack. It's still tier 3. Hey, you guys aren't playing the fucking animation that I wanted you to play. What the hell? Blackjack. Oh. I guess I never played that one somehow. CC BB. Nice dog with muzzle flash. Dog bot. All right. So yeah, I think I need to improve the lighting on the units, but we at least have a muzzle flash and it's readable, which is pretty nice. I would just like to improve the quality. Boom. Owned IMO. All right, next we need this. I have to import the Wigglehead Raptor into the game. Have you considered my Wigglehead Raptor, homie? Oh, these are the different angles. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Uh, 52. What a kooky ass unit. I guess I have to remove this tomato guy. Jesus. As you can see, it's a bit of a tough one to figure out which frame sets are which here. So, don't really think it's necessary to take that mechanic from another race. Also, unfortunately, reminds me of that stupid Dahaka meme that they added in co-op, where you would basically need to they started doing this stupid animation where they just basically fought each other, and then one of them won and then turned into an egg. That was pretty cringe. Oh, this guy actually has idle animations for everything. Oh, but not for walking, I guess. Okay, he has idle animations for his attack cycle, or he has all the facing angles for idle and attack, but not walk. Nice. It does not feel like a Zerg behavior to me at all. I don't see how, like, when you're thinking about mutations or whatever, I don't see how two units would somehow cocoon together to become one. I could see some sort of weird Terran experiment where they, like, conjoin things together. I could see a world where maybe a parasite attaches to another unit and that mutates into something. And I could see a world where Protoss are able to... I mean, I guess the whole, like, martyrdom thing is a bit weird for Protoss, but... But yeah, the whole idea of two units somehow merging into one doesn't make any sense to me. If they're the same unit anyway, it doesn't make any sense to me. Again, I could see an element where like you get some sort of attachment thing. Well, mutating into two things happens in humans too. It's called having twins, but twins don't ever fucking go back into the same thing. I mean, again, twins aren't exactly mutating, but you know what I mean. Okay. So... 2. Oh wait, this is... Oh, I guess technically this isn't 2, is it? Because we have 2 later on. So this is actually 4. Which means I have to increase these. Jesus. Okay, and then that means we have... I think we have the others a little bit later. Yeah, basically this is 2. When we get to the point where we're making our own game, I don't think we need to worry too much about copying over those mechanics or whatever. I actually think it's mega unintuitive from a gameplay perspective that Archons are merged out from a non-combatant, 2 non-combatants that have like area denial spells merge into a frontline tank. It's like, what is going on there? It doesn't make any sense from a, like, again, an intuitive angle. So that's definitely something I would levy criticism at. They're always such a headache to process. Okay, now we can do the next set, which is 8. Not much faster that way, huh? And then 10. All right. Yeah, I mean, you can see what they were, as Kian points out, and as Balethal was talking about earlier as well. The thematic of the unit or whatever of the actual action can be justified by the story, but in my opinion, it is unintuitive from a gameplay perspective. And I almost feel like, I mean, again, I don't think Blizzard thought this deeply about it, but I almost feel like what happens at the end of it is it's an encouragement to not use, like, it's basically saying, like, it's okay if you can't position your casters very well, or it's okay if we didn't give you a way to keep your casters relevant in the game. Like the way that Hydra tries to do it, or Cosmonarchy now. Basically, the whole point of casters is like one of the things that I try to do with energy is that find a way to make it so that if a unit has energy, there's a way for it to get energy by doing something good, by having good positioning, by rewarding skill, by allowing it to use more things. And that obviously isn't something that Blizzard had in the original game. So I actually feel like maybe if you remove Archons from Cantavis entirely, and maybe you just make Archons like trainable in general, maybe from a separate production structure or something, that would, I guess it would feel weird for a lot of people because everybody's used to Archons coming out of, like, coming from merging other units. But this way, you would have Cantavis, like, it's a unit that you position and it's permanently a spellcaster. And so maybe we could up the movement speed slightly and give it like 1 base armor so it has slightly more survivability, both between the durability and the mobility. You combine those, you get more survivability for the unit. And then obviously we just lean into the fact that you can get energy back from any nearby units that are killed by either hallucinations or psionic storms, and you get 5 energy per kill from either of those sources, as long as you're within a certain range. So leaning into that thematic makes a lot more sense, because then you have a victory condition, so to speak, for the Cantavis to continue to have utility and serve purposes. But then beyond that, it's like, oh well, I guess I could just merge them into Archons or whatever. It doesn't really make any sense. Yeah, I guess in theory we could make it so that Archons start a time consuming channel that on death that turns them into augurs, which means they can be focused down during the channel. That could actually be pretty interesting. Yeah, Balethal, but the problem with Mind Tyrants, Kabbalists merging into Mind Tyrants, is that it's an assassin versus a mind controlling thing. Like, they also really are fundamentally distinct in terms of its the thematic. You can reach in and say like, oh yeah, well they're both combat disruptors, but that's a small victory, I think. What's up, DF? How's it going? Did I ignore messages from you? Oh no, never mind. Yeah, sure. Okay, I was in the middle of trying to make this shit happen. So now we have... Wait, hold on. Okay, we have everything here. We just need the next in line, which appears to be 12. No, that's not what I wanted. Jesus. This is 16. And this is 14. Okay. So here we have, how many frames do I have here anyway? Yeah. No, they are a pain in the ass. I mean, thankfully, I only need, this is the 4th graphic I've converted from the game. Like, I don't suspect I'll be doing too many of these. Every unit seems to have some difference from the other units. Like, this unit has full facing angles, or not full, but like half facing angles, which is what Brood War has, for everything besides walking. For idling and for attacking, it has full facing angles, but walking, it has half facing angles, or I guess half and quarter, respectively. It's goofy as fuck. One, two, three, four, five, six. So 102, 102 plus 17, 19. Okay, so 0102, 019. Yeah, that's pretty funny. But it wouldn't make more sense because originally they're called Dark Templar and Dark Archon. You can't have High Templar becoming Dark Archon. That's race mixing. Gross. Quote from an actual Blizzard developer. Allegedly. I want to take a look at another Zerg unit so I know I'm not losing my mind with this method. Yeah, okay. Looks right to me. Although, wait. Okay. Good. So this is 102, which then means 106. Oh, wait. 1, 2, 3. Oh, this is the first one that's different, actually. I think. What was the last one? So this is 102, 104, 106 is what I just did, 108, so we're skipping that, and then it's 110. Okay. And we have... Oh, did I somehow... I think I fucked something up here. Yeah, okay. I went over one. 110. Now we have 114. And then 118. Yeah, that's the walk cycle, which means I have to duplicate everything even further later to fill it in. So now we become at, let's see, would be after that anyway. I guess it would just be 238 and then going onward. 238. Would it? Yeah, I guess it would, huh? What is, I need another massive frame set unit. This probably has a bunch of frames. No. Oh, Aspirant would have one. Well, maybe not that many. I just need to know what happens after 238. Yeah, 238 is indeed that. And then 242. Oh, wait. $248. Wait, what? Dude, what? Skither core is not 2 per larva. It would say 2 unit in 1 egg on the site. Sovroleth is, Nathricor is, Zethricore is. I haven't exhaustively tested the unit, but it does seem like it works pretty well. For, like in practice, but maybe the cost is out of whack or something. All right, I won't lie, I'm kind of lost here. I think I'm gonna undo some steps and see where I'm messed up. So that's fine. This is where it seems weird. Okay, 184 is right facing, so it's dead on. So it would be like, again, I'm trying to think of where we were at here at the beginning. We were at 238. So this would be 242, because we would skip 240. So 242. And then this would become 244, skip 6. That's what it is, 246. Then we go from 246 to 250. And then we skip from 252 to 254. Now we go all the way back to 240. I guess just 240, right? 240, 240, 257, 274, 291, 308. And then 244. And then 248. And then 252. Okay, we finally processed these in terms of the organization. Now we need to dump them into Photoshop and resave them, and then crop them. Yeah, page is complete. While this graphic is nothing to write home about, it'll at least be a distinct graphic, and I guess it's one more graphic that other people can use in their projects if they're so inclined. I'm kind of disappointed that all of the really weird graphics from this game were so bad in terms of, like, technicals. It would have been really nice to get, like, some wacky shit from that game. Like, there's a snake that has swords, and I don't know if I would have been able to use it anyway. But I would have considered using it a lot more if the animations weren't some of the worst things I've ever seen. Pretty nuts. Once I'm done saving all of these images to get rid of the flip row order flag, I will crop them so that they're taking up less space because the blank canvas is ridiculously large here. And then I'll reindex them to Starcraft's palette. And I guess, yeah, I should reindex them anyway because otherwise it'll get fucked. I'll reindex them and then I will compile them into a GRP and do some more edits on them. I'll probably do some color grading adjustments. and team color fixes and stuff like that. Well, it has arms. In fact, I think the swords are the arms, actually. I selected 77, so these are the last ones. It is pretty ridiculous that I have to do this, but at least I learned my lesson and didn't duplicate or triplicate my fucking file count before doing this. Although I guess I could have really learned my lesson and have saved these before organizing them to begin with, so I only had to organize them once. You know how it is. Hey, DF, I got you an FBX. And by me, I mean that guy. Take a look at it. See if it works. You'll probably have to put it in the same file directory as everything else. I don't know how the structure works out normally. I will say I'm very confident that this Zerg overhaul is going to be a massively beneficial experience for all people who play Zerg. The thing that will be massively rough around the edges right now is obviously all of the animations for birthing and morphing. Because I haven't done any. So like things like the Gazithalor that natively come out of a cocoon, now they come out of a larva. So what the fuck is that? That's going to need some tweaking, shall we say. I was also thinking I should probably drop collision on some large units, just ever so slightly, to make it a bit more reasonable when you have so many of them. But I have to be cognizant of potential readability issues that could crop up as a result of that. I was thinking specifically the Hydralisk and the Lachizalisk come to mind. I also wanted to ask people who happen to be hanging out in the chat. It's been many months now since all of the Zerg renames, or most of them. Obviously, I'm renaming Zergling in this coming patch and stuff like that. But things like Lachizalisk, right, is Thraithaleth, these crazy-ass names. I was curious if people had grown to them now, that it's been a little bit more common parlance. I know some people still prefer the old names just because they can pronounce them, which, you know, I understand that. I accept that. But I'm curious if people have any general thoughts on how the names have shaped up. The new names are Pog Champ. Okay, well, glad we agree. What do you mean they're easy? You mean the old names? Or the current ones are not arcane enough for your liking? I will say wait until like some of the tier 4 concepts come out. Those names are going to be fucking lunatic, but in a good way. So this was supposed to be a Mapcrap stream, but predictably I got caught up working on visuals and fucking mod stuff, concepts, talking shit, letting Photoshop do some stuff in the background. Yes, Istrathaleth is only the beginning. Istrathaleth holds a special place in my heart because It was one of the names that I took from back in the day when I was coming up with faction names for Zerg. I had the idea of so obviously I had Agents of Orlatoskos, which ended up being the Overmind, and then there were Agents of Isthrasic. So that's where Isthraith came from. And then obviously I just fucked around with it a little bit. But yeah, it's pretty good. Throw that in there. I actually wonder if I open up 3ds Max again, what will happen if I try to process this image. Oh, I already had this downloaded. Just trying to make sure, homie. Okay, I have to reopen Photoshop. Zethrocore. Fuck yeah. Stop showing me that dialogue. I'm not sure what these mean. So this is different than what I saw before. But it looks like the bones are better aligned, I'm not sure. Hard to see. So it looks like the FBX has the animation, but the OBJ has the materials. Oh, I guess maybe we never had materials from OBJ for the mind. Cool. At least we have the animations. Yeah, maybe the the materials were in some other place or something. It does look like there are textures in here, as you can see. For some reason, it's not being file pathed correctly, maybe. All right, boys. Time to painstakingly copy and paste. Oh, wait, don't do that. Whoa. Oh. Wait, what? There we go. This is so prone to errors. I'm only human. And as anybody who's watched my streams before knows, not even the best human. I make mistakes enough as it is. Oops. Calendric Knight warbands. I mean, I guess they could both call themselves legions, but like, there's ways you could tweak that. Like, obviously, the primacy would probably call them divine legions or something. You know. I was thinking for a while that the Calendric Knights would have much more like brutish, if you will, names for their ranks, their like battle commanders and stuff. So while the divine primacy has like, you know, like praetor and executor, if we wanted to keep those at all, which maybe we don't, I'll probably come up with custom ones because fuck those. But I would imagine like the Calendric Knights would have like warlord or something. You know what I mean? Like something a little bit more fucking straightforward, I guess. So you could extend that to the naming conventions of the units as well, like the military troops, the groupings. It's too bad Windows fucking Explorer lags. That's a real shame. I'd be able to do this a lot faster if it didn't sometimes omit the first file from my shit. Uh-oh. We have a flaw. We have a fuck. Oh, no, we don't have a fuck. I forgot about this. So this is where I have to actually back the... Yeah, okay, so this is actually 104, 5, 107, and 108. This is 9. I don't think this would ever happen. Like, this doesn't seem like it would happen at all. But it would be really funny if if one of these like RTS developers that I ended up taking graphics from just started like, they're like, wait, his names are way better. I'll just rename our units. That would be really funny. I don't like, again, they would have their own fucking vision or whatever, but it's really funny to imagine like, we have renamed this unit from Attacker to Gorgrakor or whatever. Like, that would be hilarious. All right, so I just did this. I have to remember the rules for this one. So I think it's 2 front facing, and then three. Wait, did I do enough of these? I think I had too many in one of these or something. Ah. Okay. That is the system then. I forget where the, I think it's, yeah, okay, it starts down here, so I still have a ways to go. Yeah, I don't know about that one. I actually don't mind chapter as an idea, but it would probably be... There's probably a way to come up with some word that hasn't been used by other IPs, but I don't know. I guess you could leave it there as like a placeholder if push came to shove and you didn't come up with anything more OG, so to speak. Oh, Jesus. Oh shit. I don't know why it's suddenly even less performant. I guess it's all the thumbnails. Can't render them all with all my fucking RAM. Oh, wait. Let's see what this one is. Ah, here we go. They sent me the sire, bro. Nice guy. We can render it a bit better. I think that's the sire anyway. I'll confirm. Yeah. All right. I've returned. There was some lunatic thumbnail I saw earlier that might have been an epic mix, but apparently not. Oh well. Okay, we were not done with this just yet, but we're pretty close actually. Yeah, okay. This is the last walk cycle, so 2. There we go. Now it's back to the glory days of only increasing the count by 1 instead of having to do fucking ridiculous mental math every time. Oh. Oh, this is 0270 and then 0273, 0275, 0278. Oh, 0276. There we go, I got it eventually. 0279. Took me like an hour to make this fucking graphic, dude. I probably spent more time rearranging these frames than the original authors of the graphics spent time on the graphics. If I had to guess. There we go. And we have the exactly correct count of assets, too. So this is fucking banging, as they say. Cool. I think I'll do 72. Okay. Let's just close this. Sorry, it's too hard to update folders in real time. We don't know how to do that. This is only software after all. It's not supposed to work. Or I guess technically this is all done, so I'll just do the placeholder graphic and then like birth animation, borrow animation. Then we'll So this is just cropping it. We'll then index it, and then we will generate a shadow and see what it looks like in game. We still need burrow, death. Oh yeah, death animation as well. I wonder if this Windows update that's pending has actually fixed anything. Oops. You missed me dealing with this fucking graphic, bro. The Wigglehead Raptor is coming into the game as a new unit. I'm not going to bother with all of its animations just yet, but suffice it to say, we'll see what happens. After I'm done processing this as a graphic with a shadow and all that, I will write the iScript for it, and I'll need a muzzle flash, a couple of other small changes, animations obviously, and then I'll do all of the animation related stuff later on. But at least the graphic itself is taken care of, and we're good. The Lyrilisk, which is being morphed from the Quasilisk. Let's go ahead and I think that's a much more reasonable graphic, to be honest. Oops. The fuck? Almost forgot about some units that I had hand-picked from Armageddon. We have this that could easily become some sort of ship, or maybe a hover tank of some sort. In fact, maybe this ends up being the Claymore if I downscale it. We have this fucking goofball. I don't know what I would use him for, to be honest. Maybe with some recoloring, I could use him as like a Templar or something. We have Lunatic, which doesn't have all the facing angles I would want. But he has a sword. He's a melee man, bro. And I think I could probably add muzzle flash. Maybe this ends up being the Olympian, actually. Because if I can add a muzzle flash to his like shoulder cannon or whatever, then I can make him attack melee with the Titan's fist, and then have the mountain gun be his mounted gun. Almost makes sense. But I'm not sure about that one yet. Oh, he actually does have an animation for his gun attacking. It just doesn't really do anything, so I would have to add a muzzle flash. That's probably possible. And then there's the Dad Thrakor. Look at this motherfucker. He's ready. This can pretty cleanly be translated, I think. No. There you go. What was I going to do next? I'm waiting for this to be indexed. Once this is indexed, we throw it into a GRP and we shadow it, and then we do something else. I don't know yet. I think it'll probably be time to map at that point. Since this stream was ostensibly supposed to be mapping, and I just haven't done that yet. We'll take a sit-down moment for the time being. I will say some issue with the Lyrillist currently is that it doesn't really look like a ranged unit, but it only has an animation where it wiggles its head, hence the nickname Wigglehead Raptor. So I'll just have to have it vomit spores for now. I would like different kinds of attacks for Zerg. Right now, they're kind of thematically limited to spores, spines, or melee. If you think about it, they have no other kinds of attacks. There was, of course, the acid spray in the beta for Mutalisks. That would have been really cool, I think. So maybe we can get that done. That might even be like an orphan swarm unit or something that ends up being like a short range. I mean, originally the Nathracor was actually supposed to have an acid spray to deal some small amount of splash damage. But I think we can have a better, like a tier 2 or above unit that sprays. Maybe the Dadthracor will do that, actually. Whatever that ends up being called. We will need to extend weapons after this coming patch, I think. I have just enough to skate by right now, and if Veek is able to make Dirge and Last Orders like sort of hard-coded, you could say, like defined in the plugin instead of relying on a weapon ID, I'll have 2 weapon IDs, which is good for the Autocrat and half of the Olympian. Like, we still need a third one. Maybe I can find some other one that's able to be cannibalized. I don't know. Maybe some unused spell or something. But I think I've taken most of the things, unfortunately. Can't believe how many fucking frames there are. We still have about 80 to go on that. So I guess I can pop open the map meanwhile, since I'm almost done with that. Where's my fucking Mapcrap, homie? Blasteroids. All right, so if you guys recall on my testing 2 days ago when I did my Monday Mapcrap stream, one of the things I noticed was that this player really lacks for build space. A solution is to actually remove this or rework this area so that it's not quite so busy. So we could do something like this, maybe. And then we could maybe probably remove that. And then, yeah, I think something like this could work. Then it's a bit of a longer walkway as well, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, and we get access to this over here, which is pretty interesting. So this actually eats up more build space, theoretically, but I think it's still better. Because then we can just expand the build space out over here. And have him essentially have this as his playground, so there can be like a contested base between teal and orange over here, and maybe a base that would also be contested, but it'll be up more in the corner, slightly more defensible. I really want island bases again, but unfortunately, until the AI can actually engage with them, that's a no-go. So, yeah, we'll probably leave it at that for now. I guess one concern is that this player needs to be able to path through the Yeah. I think that'll be a net improvement in general to game flow in this area. And we can continue to build up stuff over there. All right, we're done here, so we can do the shadow now. So unit shadow infantry. There you go. Okay, back to this. Where my bridge is at, homie. Here we go. Surely I have some of these ramps somewhere. There we go. Just trying to find the one tile that I like over there. Even though it's a placeholder anyway, whatever. All right, we'll go ahead and take care of that in a moment. I'm going to settle on where the rest of this shit's going to be. I would like to keep some negative space over here, but this is like a mega contested area. I'll probably put a very high value expo here because it's like between 4 players, right? Getting a noticeable amount of lag. And I ain't talking about my brain, homie. Just because Photoshop is doing a bunch of shit. So how's your Mapcrap coming along, Kian? Are you working on one actively? I don't know if he's even still in the chat, but I assume he is. I'm excited to see what people come up with here. As it looks like everybody who's entering, besides maybe Heltrix, I think Heltrix is the only one who's not using Cosmonarchy. Everybody else seems to be using it. I'm using it. Veek's using it. Apparently Balefall is, because he was talking about making his own shit, right? His own story element, like exploring that. iQuare was asking me for a Hydra AI documentation, so I'm pretty sure he's using it. I should have asked people to actually, like, in the past, in the past, people basically had to go in and claim themes, right? So they had to say, like, I'm doing this. And that would be a surefire way of knowing how many people were participating. But this time I didn't actually say, like, hey, post about your submission if you're participating or whatever. So I have no idea who's actually here doing some work and who's not. Which is pretty interesting. Whoa, don't do that. What the fuck? Okay. Pop in here. Leralisk. So we're going to say... So we have 6, 7, 8. Yeah, that makes sense, kid. Oh, I see. It's basically the same thing, but with turn CYs instead. Okay. Well, for some bizarre reason, I decided to do the idle animation first, but that's okay, I think. Hopefully it actually works. That would be nice. So we have... So we have until DD. Okay. And then for attacking, it starts... So 2-1 and 3-2. Okay. So based on all this, that should actually complete our unit. We just have to add the ground attack repeat. Let's do this, and then I think we're good. It is set up to use iScript 599. Okay. Wow, we're still 80 or 70 frames away from finishing. Jesus. What a mess. Although I don't know if I... yeah. I need to set up the flingy ID is 384. So now that will be relevant. Cool. Well, we've done the iScript. Now we just need to smash out the... finish smashing the shadow. I gotta probably re-index the image to fix any busted player color. And we'll be well on our way following that. So yeah, the question is, how do I want the rules of engagement to appear over in this area? And I think the answer is going to come from something like this. Okay. Yeah, that looks a bit solid. Obviously, one of the things that I want to do is add a little bit more Z to some of these areas, a little bit more height differences. I think over here could be one. Over here as well. You can't really see that at all, but this area over here where there's the two holes there, and then this area, this long corridor, courtyard area could definitely use some separation. Maybe even something that just cuts across completely, something like then I would just extend this area up here a bit. I don't really like how prohibitive this feels to exit, but maybe I can like push the whole thing up a little bit later on. Now we'll just slap some of these. Okay. Bit unorthodox. One thing you can criticize about this current layout is that this ramp right here is kind of fucked, actually. There's not really that much movement room. I don't want it to be too prohibitive, of course, but also... All right. Now we're done with this. We can process the shadow. This is obviously my worst nightmare. Didn't even think to figure out what to do about these pixels. But... I actually don't really see that many massive issues, so maybe it's fine. Maybe the one case I just saw was the bulk of it or something. Not sure. Yeah, it looks like there's definitely some others. But I guess we'll... I honestly completely forgot this kind of thing even happened. It's been too long since I've edited some of these graphics, I guess. gotten a bit complacent. All right. Save that for now. It's very hard to see this, but let's see if I can spy any obvious issues. Can only do this for a short time before my eyes burn from my sockets. I see some things here and there, but nothing really massive. All right. So the first thing we will do is correct the team color. Then we will once again save this. And my next trick go ahead and layer via cut this. It'll be clear color, hide it. I'm gonna be on the lookout for any additional bits that should have been grabbed by what I just did. Don't see anything in particular. It's a bit that shouldn't have been. Rid of that. Okay. Welcome, roller skates, to the soul-burning extravaganza. You, actually. There are usually no survivors, so you'll have to seek out the fabled pizza that did not get eaten. There are only rumors of it existing, nothing confirmed. And yet it still may find some solace in the void. I don't know, I'm just talking nonsense. How are you? What are you doing? How's things? When are you making a Mapcrap? Join us for Mapcrap. Oh! It's not right. Ah! Oh, that's not what I thought I was going to get myself into. Oh, actually, I know why that is, though. That's, where's the shared stuff anyway? It's all the way up top here. So this is 1402, 1403. That's all right. And sprite ID 384 is the Lyrilisc. Points to, or Flingy ID, and it points to... $719. Which then points to 1402, which we know is correct because 1404 works for the Sovraleth. GRP ID 1327, which is accurate right here. Why would it be a Hydra? Has my old project name come back to haunt me? I am confused, homie. Incorrect weapon hit 85. Oh, it's supposed to be a bouncing weapon. It's probably because I didn't hook it up in Visual Studio. In GPTP. I think it's in weapon fire. This is glaive worm. Bounce. Correct. I guess it's in weapon damage then. Glaive. Lyrilisks. Hollowed spores. In fact, it should be over here. So let's figure out what we've got going on here. We've at least fixed the bullet stuff, so that'll bounce and divide the damage correctly. We have a case of unit ID 12 something. 112. So I'm guessing that means that I just don't have the right name here. Yeah, it's 122. That's why. It's always something stupid. There we go. Add Lyrilisc bounce case. I call 1 frame extra, apparently. Oh, wait, no, that's its idle animation. It's definitely going way too fast, so we'll add some more weights here. Lyrilisc. It's fucking hyperactive, motherfucker. Okay. Okay, I think we fixed those iScript issues now. I'm not really a fan of how much aliasing there is, so I might undo my gradient map change. There's a lot of fucked like colors on it and stuff. That animation is weird. I think my These animations here should probably play like the E, F, E, F. What is O3 anyway? Oh, wait. No, that's actually fine. Yeah, it looks like it's trying to, like, kick back almost, like it's taunting you. It's, like, ready to jump at you like a fucking bull or something. Though, to be honest, that's probably me being a generous. I don't know what the fuck that was. Yeah, it looks like it just flips out mostly. No, I'll figure out something better for the idle. Maybe I just have it loop forever and not turn at all. Which is kind of a downgrade. Okay. So implement Lyrilisc placeholder graphic. The only other thing we need to do is launch missile position. Yeah, here we go. Missile spawns. Lyrilisc hollowed spores. Evaluate Lyrilisc missile pawns. Skithra core attack. Oh, that's not really what I wanted, but whatever. Why is this program so terrible? Lyrisk. Missiles. Position rolls. Okay. Why? Did I forget to save somewhere? It's a valid entry. It's set to use the attack pointer. There's 2 entries for it. I wonder if the reason is because it only attacks once. Is there another example of 2? It looks like it's only that. Celestial Cannon. Star Sovereign. Oh, of course. Okay, that's why then. So I have to go in here and duplicate the attack command. And then I have to go into Weapon Armor Tooltip. I have to do Lyrilis, Collode Spores. Then I have to go to Weapons Dat. And what is it, 85? Set the factor to 1. And then I can import everything. Always a good bit when random bullshit gets in your way. So obviously the projectiles are a bit large for this unit, but... Oh, and then... Oh, and then I have to make a version of the spores that bounces correctly. Spores, silent. 496. The other question is, does this change from Glaveworm? Glaveworm uses full ice script, so this one should too. And then I think we're good. Just need to rename the blocks. And then we need to actually override it with the new Flingy ID, which is 386. And then it should bounce correctly. Owned. They also are spinning a bit stupidly, so I'm going to compare the Flingy of Glaveworm to what I have. And it looks like there are literally no differences. Or turn radius is higher, okay. Try that. Hey DF, are you still in the stream? Because I got a prank for you. I just remembered I never told you this development when I found it. If he's not here, I'll tell the story anyway, but I figured it would be of special note to him. Special interest. So, the magical missiles used to spin ridiculously, and we tried so many different things to try to fix that, including like turn radius and speed and all this other stuff, right, for the missile, and never worked. So one day before the recent mega patch, probably sometime last week, I guess, I went in and I was like, huh, I've got a magical missile field here. And then I've got this other shit, right? I've got basically I've got these entries, but it seems like one of them is not even used. And then I put 2 and 2 together, and the one that I had been doing all the experiments on to see if it would fix was the one that wasn't used, and the other ones were unchanged. And so when I copied over the fields of the unused one to the used one, it fixed the problem. So it was really just me. Let's just say I was the clown emoji at the time. I think it's using Venom, which has a turn radius of 127, so shouldn't be a problem. I'll confirm that that's the case. Yeah. Yes, mega clown level. We can just cannibalize this, I guess. I forget what the icon ID is. 344. So same one, actually. Well, I don't know that it is still doing it. I thought we fixed that a long time ago. I haven't seen anybody report it, at least. Well, I can't say it's a good looking unit, but it is a unit. It is a looking unit. It looks. You can look at it. I don't recommend that really, but it is possible. So I'll say that much. I think my next objective is to continue filling out the map, getting more bases down, and specifically getting bases down for these two players. But how long have I already been streaming for? Almost 4 hours already. So unfortunately, even though this was supposed to be a Mapcrap stream, I didn't actually get much Mapcrapping done. That being said, it was still important work. So I'll do some more work on it tomorrow. I should have I'll have a stream on in the noon or morning or whatever, and we will handle that then. So I'll get some more work done on my crapping, and that'll be on stream tomorrow. In between then and now, I will work on some unit responses, some maybe some animations for the Lyrilisc. Actually, I don't know, maybe some other stuff. But yeah, suffice it to say, it's looking pretty good. We're getting those models from 5 Nations, which is awesome, and we're getting some more work done on Cosmonarchy, and we're also crapping, albeit at least maybe today I was constipated or something. This analogy has gone too far. I will catch you guys later. Thanks for hanging out on my crap stream.